It's Transforce96 here with another video where I'm going to be talking about a newly shown Hot Toys figure. This time we have our first official Hot Toys figure from Spider-Man Homecoming. This is the homemade Spider-Man suit. So quite exciting here. It's very early to get anything from Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man doesn't come out until June, I believe. It might actually be July, but I think it's June, which is quite a few months away. And not to mention that, but we have Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a massive team movie, as well as Pirates of the Caribbean that come out before it. So to get something from Spider-Man before we have a figure from Pirates of the Caribbean, and after we only have one figure from Guardians of the Galaxy, is incredibly surprising and very strange for Hot Toys. This is very unusual. So this is quite exciting, and you know it's quite nice for people who want a Spider-Man figure but don't want to have to wait too long to get him, because obviously I think that I doubt that we'll see another Spider-Man figure anytime soon. I think the next one that we see will probably be in May or June. That's my guess. I think that they're going to start focusing on Guardians of the Galaxy coming up here pretty soon. But this figure looks quite nice. It's relatively plain because obviously this is a homemade suit. You know, this is the first like interpretation of Spider-Man where his suit makes sense. Like he would make this himself, and then Tony Stark would give him an actual upgraded suit rather than him like making that himself. So this is a logical interpretation of that. The suit that he creates himself, it looks very good. I mean, he's got kind of like a long sleeve sweater with a hoodie on top of it, a kind of face mask, some sweatpants with these long socks and shoes. You know, it looks rather realistic, which I like quite a bit. I love the eyes, like the massive eyes. I think they're very cool, and I love the fact that he worked in the lensing effect into those eyes. I think that's very nice, and I'm really happy that we do have multiple interchangeable eyes to change the level of how much they're opened and things like that. I really love that. You can really get some good expression on this figure. And the eyes, they just look so cool. I've seen people remake like an image of the Spider-Man, turning everything red into yellow and making it a Minions figure, and it looks very funny. So I like that a lot. I'm a big fan of those eyes. I would imagine some people would find them goofy, but I think they look quite good actually. He does seem to come with a nice slew of accessories. Let's go over that. We have, like I said, the 3 sets of interchangeable eyes. He comes with many interchangeable hands. We have 2 that are just, you know, his, I don't know what you call them, his kind of spread out hands that can be holding onto the floor, things like that. His 2 web shooting hands, 2 fists, and then 2 hands that are meant for holding the webs or holding the mask that he comes with, because he does come with a mask. Then we do get a Tom Holland head sculpt. The only thing is we haven't seen it yet. It's blurred out. From what we can see from the blurred image, it looks pretty good, but obviously, you know, that doesn't mean much. So when the official image of it comes out, that'll be interesting to see how good it looks. I'm hoping that, I mean, I would imagine that the regular Spider-Man will also come with a Tom Holland head sculpt. It'll be interesting to see if they use the same one or if they do change up the expression. I would imagine that they'll use the same one. He comes with, you know, a pretty standard base with a flight pole, though, which looks nice. He doesn't come with a backdrop. Like, you know, a Queen's backdrop would have been great. I'm really loving when they give the figures backdrops. They do it a lot for DC figures nowadays. I would love if they just did it with everybody, because that would just be great. I mean, if you don't have the room to display it, you just don't display it. But if you do, it's so nice to have that. So I'm disappointed that he doesn't come with a backdrop. As far as, you know, if I'm going to get this, I don't plan to. It would have to be, like, surprisingly inexpensive for me to get this one, just because I plan to get the regular Spider-Man, so I don't really need this one. I do think that this guy will make a decent appearance in the movie. We do see him, in particular, on the beach, where it looks like he's pretty beat up. He is wearing this costume, and Vulture turns around. So there's one of 2 different possibilities. Either he starts out the movie in the suit, and it's kind of before the events of Civil War, and we see Spider-Man meet the Vulture for the first time, where the Vulture comes to the scene, you know, just kicks his ass basically and leaves him on the beach, and you know, that's where we see him in this. Or he, for some reason, doesn't have his regular Spider-Man suit, and he's resorted to taking his original one to fight Vulture in the finale. It's one of those 2 things. I would think that it's the first theory more, in my opinion. I think that's just the more logical one. But I think that you know, this he's gonna get some decent screen time, and you'll get at least a little bit of screen time of him fighting Vulture too. I mean, that's pretty much proven, so that's very exciting. I think that this isn't. I've seen a lot of people comment on their Facebook page about how this, costume isn't going to be in the movie for 2 minutes, but it will be. It'll have a decent screen time because I think that he won't get the Spider-Man suit until somewhere in the middle or towards the beginning of the film anyway. So I think that this will make a decent appearance, and I think that it's a worthy figure for Hot Toys to make. I'm glad that they're making it. So as far as the other figures that they can make from Spider-Man Homecoming, also before I go into that, price. This guy's on pre-order as of filming this. I would imagine that he'd be on the slightly lower end of a regular figure, but he's still pretty much a really good figure himself. There's not a whole lot of detail in his costume, but it is still a completely new costume. And then he obviously comes with the Tom Holland head sculpt. So I would imagine this would be about $210. I would say is probably an accurate price point for him, which I would say is fair. If he's much over that, I think that's a little overpriced. If he's under that, I'd be quite happy though. I think that is underpriced. And Q2 to Q3 is when this guy's going to be released of 2017. Most of the figures that have gone on pre-order recently are coming out in 2018, so this figure comes out relatively soon, which is nice. As far as the other figures they can do, they're obviously going to do a regular Spider-Man. They've already previewed it as well. I do plan to pick that one up, really hoping that he does come with a Tom Holland head sculpt, which I think he will now. Then they're obviously going to do Iron Man because his suit is just a repaint of the Mark 46. It merely has some silver on it. There's a possibility they could do a Peter Parker, but considering they're giving head sculpts to the Spider-Man figures, I doubt that they'll do a Peter Parker. If they were going to do a Peter Parker, I doubt they'd give Tom Holland head sculpts to the two Spider-Man figures. And then the last one is Vulture. I would absolutely love a Vulture figure. I'm a big villains fan, especially Spider-Man villains. I really love Spider-Man villains, so I would love a Vulture figure. It's actually the character that I'm most anticipating a Hot Toys figure from this year. I'm super stoked for it, so I'm really hoping that they do actually produce a Vulture figure. It will be very hard for them to do so. It was simply because his wings are so massive. It would be a very expensive figure, I would imagine, and therefore they would probably be worried about doing it, especially because as of late they've kind of stopped making Spider-Man, or they've stopped making Marvel villains in general. They seem to show them often. They do make them, but they never sell them to the public, so it's very disappointing. I've been really excited, and then my hopes have been crushed with Crossbones and Yellow Jacket, and then speaking of Spider-Man villains, Rhino. And Rhino, I think, is a pretty good comparison because he is also a Spider-Man villain, and he is a massive one. He's one that would cost a lot of money, similar to Vulture. Vulture would be smaller. I mean, his wings, they're thinner, but they are still very massive. So I would imagine Vulture would be a $400 figure or so. So I could see them being worried about doing that. Vulture, though, of course, is a main villain in the movie, unlike Rhino. So I think that will help him a bit, and obviously there's not a ton of figures they can make from this movie, so I think that'll help Vulture a bit, but that didn't help Yellow Jacket. So personally, I'm really hoping that we get a Vulture figure, but I'm not. I think that there's a decent chance of it, but it is definitely not a sure thing. So my fingers are crossed, but it's great to see them making progress on the Spider-Man Homecoming figure front. This looks like a very exciting figure, and looking quite cool. It's getting me into Spider-Man. I'm super excited for this movie, so I'd be very excited for the toy line. Let me know what you guys think of this figure and what other figures from Spider-Man Homecoming that you'd like to see. Thanks so much for watching.